Life is so beautiful. Time is what makes it ugly. But time after time and through every turn in this life, I could use some stability. We fly and we fall, but we don't fall apart. Break after break, each piece of my heart. Lovers have come and lovers have gone, but you still feel like right when the whole world feels wrong. They say history repeats itself, but a memory is for the shelf. Well, I replay the moments and years of our lives while I'm praying and hoping there will always be you and I. Tell me, how could two people grow? Rearrange and transpose, but it's always the same. I'm attracted to every way. Your mind and your body could ever change. We fly and we fall, but we don't fall apart. Break after break, each piece of my heart. Love.
Welcome to NWA Cane Corso's podcast, where we talk all things dogs.
Welcome back to another show, NWA Cane Corso podcast, where we talk all things dogs. Everybody in the chat, everybody at home, everybody on Instagram, everybody on Facebook, salute. Glad to have you back. Tonight, we have one of my favorite teachers. He's a GOAT in his own way, you know what I mean? He don't like when I say that, but I think this guy is such a great guy, and I do tell you that he's going to be important in our history of dogs. Mr. Alexander Gonta, how you doing, my friend?
Thank you. I don't deserve that kind of praise.
I know you don't like that.
I'm just a simple guy, and
Yeah,
I'm a student of the breed, and I'm a student of dogs. I'm not
but we
I'm not
appreciate
anybody
you.
special,
Yeah,
honestly.
right. But we appreciate you, don't we, chat?
I
Yeah,
appreciate. I
yes, sir.
appreciate.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
All right, well, man,
It's nice to be here. I always have a good time here, and it's a
we
very
do.
good audience.
Yeah, we do have
I
a good
really
time.
enjoy talking to you and your audience. It's a real nice audience.
Man, I appreciate it. Yeah, we appreciate
Thank
you
you.
as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, we done had some great conversations,
Yeah.
and this is going to be
I'm gonna
another
light
great.
up because the lighting is not good. Let me just turn on
Okay,
this
yeah.
light.
So
See
this
if
was
it
a
makes it
great
better.
conversation Alexander came up with, dog training books. No one talks about that, hardly. And so that's going to be the subject of tonight. And
Yep.
Alexander, it might be somebody's first time tuning in. I want to say I'm Joe. This is an all breed podcast, and we just get different perspectives on dogs and learn dogs, all things dog. We talk about all the kind of subjects and things. Now, Alexander, can you give them a brief summary on who you are and what you do, sir?
Sure, of course. My name is Alex Gonta from Von Gonta House German Shepherds. The name Gonta is part of the name, so it translates to Von from Gonta, my name, house, a German spelling a house, not the English spelling a house. I'm
Right.
a very small breeder of German Shepherds. I'm not a commercial scale breeder. I have only a litter once a year, maybe. Most of my dogs are imported from either Germany or Holland. Um, I have a little video channel of about 2,800 subscribers at this point, which is not German Shepherd specific. I talk about a lot of my videos are about genetics, line breeding, and inbreeding. I was a science major in my college days, so I have a lot of biological information regarding line breeding for those who didn't see my videos earlier. I also talk about raising dogs, nutrition, early neurological stimulation for puppies and how that affects them. I talk about temperament testing dogs to figure out what their temperament qualities will be like, how to match the right buyer with the right dog in your litter because they're not all the same. And basically, even though I'm a German Shepherd focused, I'm an all breed channel. While a lot of my topics are not German Shepherd specific, they are all breed specific. And I hope to provide information to the audience because I feel that by educating breeders and by educating buyers, we can have better outcomes for our dogs, which is in the end what everybody wants.
That's right. Right. Yeah. Well, we thank you for that intro. And like you say, it is a lot of I share a lot of your content on my community page because
Thank
it
you.
works amongst all breeds. It's
That's
knowledge
true.
that goes across the board. So,
That's right.
you know, yeah, so let's get into it, Alexander. You have read a lot of different books and you've participated in some sports and training things. Tell us what's on your mind today.
A lot of misinformation is now floating on social media regarding dog training.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm going to mention this person by name because he's very vocal. His name is Zach George. He has a very popular YouTube channel and has a very high number of subscribers. He recently went into a vlog war with another trainer um, who advocates correction and positive reinforcement based methods, whereas Zach George believes in no corrections, no nothing, pure positive training. And he's one of these crowds that I spoke about in my last video, which is very vocal about eliminating old tools, eliminating prong collars, eliminating e-collars, eliminating the word no. You can't say to the dog no. You can't tell the dog no. Stop that.
What?
Yeah. Watch
Oh,
his videos.
I need
Watch it.
to. Yeah. Okay.
Watch it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was having video after video arguing his point. Then he took on Ivan Balabanov and he started fighting with him.
Hmm.
The gentleman invited him to his show. He says, "You have a point of view? Come over to my show. We'll talk like gentlemen. We'll do a podcast together. I'll give you the floor. Make your point. I'll give you the floor." He refused to come on Ivan's. Now, for those who don't know Ivan Balabanov, because not everybody here is a German Shepherd person, so I don't know who the audience is and what they, maybe they're a pit bull person and not a German Shepherd person.
Hmm.
So for those who don't know, Ivan Balabanov was the world champion in the sport, what used to be called Schutzhund, and later now is called IGP. He's the 13-time world champion. He won the world championship 13 times, stood at the podium. He also wrote a book on training dogs. I don't have it in front of me, but it's like this book, Schutzhund. Um, he teaches seminars. He lives in Florida. He is a very, very famous trainer. He started off in Bulgaria, in an Eastern Bloc country, came to America as a kid, and really uh, made his life dogs. It is a passion of his. And he is in the same league, or maybe higher league than Michael Ellis. They're about peers.
Hmm.
So you're talking about the creme de la creme trainer of trainers. In other
Yeah.
words, trainers go to him to learn how to be trainers.
Right.
It's not your Joe Schmo trainer in the Petco over there in the corner.
No, Av is a real deal. Yeah.
Yeah, Ivan is the, I don't know, he's the goat.
Yeah.
He is the champion. And for those who know him, he has a YouTube channel and he has a
Hmm.
lot of discussions. He has a heavy Eastern European accent. Maybe I have a little bit as well,
Hmm.
because Russian and Bulgarian are close sister languages. But
Right. Yeah.
I think my English is less accented than his. But he
Yeah.
has a
His
heavy,
is heavier. Yeah. His is
very
heavier.
heavy
Yeah.
Bulgarian accent, right? But
Uh-huh.
it's not a
Yeah.
Russian accent for those who don't know. It's a
Right.
Bulgarian accent.
Hmm.
But Bulgarian is close to Russian as a Slavic language. But anyhow, that's neither here nor there. But Ivan is like, if you can't compete at that level and you don't have the wherewithal to stand on the podium beating out 200 people in the nationals, what are you doing arguing with Ivan? So, so Zach is very, very vocal, and another person who had a lot of the a lot of trainers, which are balanced trainers. Um, what's the other gentleman's name? He has a beard.
Military guy
I don't remember. Um,
wears a ball cap.
don't remember. But anyhow, he had a fight with everybody. I mean, he fought through his vlog channel every balance trainer that we have. Every. I mean, he picks fights with balance trainers. He just makes it his mission in life to have arguments with balance trainers. Now, the question becomes, dog training has been around for a long time.
Hmm.
And before we got to the situation in life we are now in, where balance trainers call themselves virtuous and make the correction plus slash positive reinforcement trainers, balance trainers, seem like we're cruel. And they call themselves science-based trainers. Well, the scientific method involves creating a postulate. You postulate something. You say, well, this might be true. And then you create an experiment to test it. That's the scientific method. You don't
Right.
just say, well, this is science based because it's pure positive. That's not science. That's just your definition of science. And you're using words to make it sound like you're the good guy and everybody else is the bad guy for using balanced trainers.
Mhm.
So uh, the question is, well, where does his information come from? Where does this movement come from? And where does the correction movement come from? Where did this all begin? How did this all start? So nobody trains dogs in either a correction-based style or a pure positive style or a mix of the two without having a foundation that came from somewhere.
Exactly.
That foundation came from books. Before we had internet, before we had YouTube, before we had VHS cassettes, because VHS cassettes, for those who don't remember, only came out in the 70s.
Right.
In the 1960s, there were no VCRs. And up until the 1950s, there were no televisions. So in the 1940s, there was no television receivers. I don't know if people know that.
Hmm.
Television became invented in 54. So prior to 1954, television didn't exist. People don't realize that. And VCRs didn't exist until 1970s.
Right.
And then DVDs only came out in early 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so people think all of this stuff was always around. No, it wasn't around. It was brand new stuff in the in the last 40 years, but it wasn't true for 100 years or 150 years.
Hmm.
So what I wanted to discuss is where did this, but dog training was around well before we had electronics to broadcast training methods. See, nowadays it's easy. You go to YouTube, you will see a number of videos from very good trainers. They'll show you train. You had Has on your show recently.
Hmm.
He has very good trained dogs at a very high standard, right?
Hmm.
And a lot of high level trainers at that level. I'm not a trainer at that level. I am
Right.
going to admit to you, I'm not. But most people are not. But now you can go watch a video of how a dog is trained, or you can order a video cassette or a DVD, as now is more common. Or now you can do streaming, but before you used to order video cassettes. I used to order video cassettes from Learberg.com. I'm sure everybody on this broadcast knows
Oh
Ed
yeah.
Frawley, Ed Frawley and his channel.
Hmm.
One of his frequent broadcasters on that channel is Michael Ellis.
Michael Ellis. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent trainer. Very excellent. Doesn't get any better than that, honestly.
Right.
not just in training, but in the ability to explain to people what he's doing. His communication skills are the highest I've seen. Um, a very good trainer, but he's a very tough guy. But
Hmm.
a good trainer is Bart Ballone using the NEPOPO system, negative, positive, positive. Bart Ballone, for those who haven't heard.
Okay.
Larry Larry Cohn, or is it Crone? Or I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's Crone, but I'm not
I think
100%
so
sure.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm mispronouncing, forgive me. I'm not trying to mispronounce it deliberately.
Hmm.
Larry Crone, very popular internet trainer. Another very popular internet trainer is Dave Croyer,
Yeah.
who has a website called davecroyer.com. Very good trainer. Okay, well, nowadays you can pick up your fingers, type on the keyboard. You can have Frenzy Dog Academy for those who like AKC style training.
Hmm.
Very good. Janet Gunn, AKC trainer, not Schutzen trainer.
Hmm.
Excellent for AKC style. If you don't
Right.
want protection sports, you want to just obedience. Janet Gunn from Canada, very very good.
Hmm.
So you can go out on the web, and by the way, I invite anybody watching to Google these names.
Yeah.
You could buy their DVDs, and for the cost of I don't know $50, you get a person for 20 to 30 years experience brought into your house. If you had to
Hmm.
pay per lesson with such a high level trainer, you would pay a lot. So you
Right.
get the benefit of a very very high level trainer, and by high level I mean a person who won competitions. See, anybody can call themselves a dog trainer. There's no dog training license. Anybody can call themselves a dog trainer.
Hmm.
But what you have to ask yourself is, well, what competitions have you won?
Hmm.
What awards have you won? What's your resume? In other words,
Yeah.
dog training is not talk based. It's what you can do.
Yeah.
Show
Your
me
resume. Yeah. The
what
work
is your
that.
resume? What can you do? Show me what you've done. Give me the titles of dogs you've titled.
Hmm.
Have you competed in AKC obedience? Have you titled a dog up to the UDX standard?
Hmm.
Utility dog excellent is UDX.
Yeah.
So you have CD companion dog, CDX companion dog excellent, UD utility dog, UDX utility dog excellent. In
Right.
Schutzen you have the BH, the basic obedience title and temperament test, followed by IGP1, IGP2, IGP3. And of course, if you're tracking, you can go above the tracking level of Schutzen 3. You can go FH1, FH2.
Hmm.
Those dogs would be usually used for search and rescue if you're going
Right.
to do cadaver search or child lost in the woods. You would get an FH2 dog because those are really well trained.
Hmm.
Anyhow, so there's a lot of titles you can have, and it's a difficult sport to achieve a title. But any Joe Schmo can call themselves a dog trainer. I asked the person, well, what have you accomplished with your dogs? Show me
Hmm.
some titles. So the question is, no matter which school of thought you're following, where did it come from? So the first book I want to go over, if you don't mind, I don't have it in front. First, let me show everybody the books I'm going to talk about, which I already have in front of me. And then some books I can't find in my library.
Right.
I'll just take you to a page where that book is described, and then I
Okay.
invite people to buy these books if they want to. So one book is Schutzen Theory and Methods by Susan Barwick and Stafford Hilliard. This is You're not going to learn Schutzen from a book, but you're going to learn a lot that will help you organize your
I
training program.
understand it. Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
that's a good book. Another very good book that I like is Der Schutzhund, the Protection Dog by Dr. Helmut Reiser. This book came out in 1996. It's a very thin book, as you can see. The
Hmm.
reason this book is significant is because prior to this book coming out, everybody trained dogs in defense. They attacked the dog was tied, couldn't escape, so these either lie down and be beaten or fight back. So it's a very defense-based training method versus this book advocates training biting in prey drive where the dog is not feeling threatened. He
Right.
just bites the sleeve, gets confidence of the mechanics of the bite, learns to fight the man for the sleeve, not to attack the man, but the equipment. Once the dog's confidence and maturity is higher, 18 months, 20 months, then you switch over to defense drive and fight drive. But initially, you develop the dog in prey, and then you build the bite. In German Shepherds, the grip matters. You can't have a chewy grip, and grip is genetic in German Shepherds.
Hmm.
In Malinois, they don't breed for grip because dog can bite and rebite. It doesn't have to have a good grip.
Right.
Um, so the idea of moving from defense-based training to prey-drive training, like you would train a sport dog methodology and then transition to
Defense.
protection dog mechanisms if you want to. But if you
Right.
have a sport dog, it's enough to train in prey because
Okay.
you're doing sport, you're not doing real life. So
Right.
this transition to methodology that came out as a result of this book, literally.
Okay.
This book influenced that, and it's translated from German. He's now in America, but he is originally from Germany. He's a dentist, that's why it's Dr. Helmut Reiser.
Hmm.
He's in his late 70s now. He
Okay.
was invited to Ivan Balabanov's broadcast. In this book, he's in his 30s.
Gotcha.
So he's still alive. This book revolutionized how you train protection dogs.
Right.
Prior to that, you put the dog into defense, and you were very hard on the dog, and only dogs which could fight back were kept.
Right.
It ruined a lot of dogs before we switched to this transitional method. Prior to that,
Gotcha.
dogs were being hurt.
Right. Hey,
Um,
Alexander, I want to
yes,
cut you off just for 1 second. I want to
right,
show a comment that's probably very important right now. This is
sure.
the Ohio Malinois mom. She says, sending good thoughts to Robert Cabral. He shared that he lost his home in the fires, got out with his wife and 2 dogs.
Oh,
I saw
I
that
didn't
on
know that.
Instagram. Yeah,
Yeah,
Richard.
that's the other. That was the man I was talking about in Zach George, Robert Cabral.
Right, right. Mr. Cabral,
Mr.
condolences.
Cabral,
Yeah.
more power to you, sir. Stay
Yes,
safe.
sir. Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
I know
sir.
you're Jewish like me, so
Mm.
Baruch Hashem, as they
Yes,
say.
sir.
God
Yes,
bless.
sir. Thank you, Soul Power,
Yeah,
aka.
yeah. So,
Okay.
so God bless you. So, yeah, Zach George was fighting with Robert Cabral.
Right,
Video
right.
after video after video.
Uh-huh.
It was sickening to watch. I'm like, he was
Hmm.
lying to argue for the sake of arguing. That's why it annoyed me. So, anyhow, let
Hmm.
me just share more books.
Okay.
One book, of course, I invite everybody to read who's a student of
Mhm.
biology is Charles Darwin, Theory of Evolution, because you can't
Yeah,
talk about developing and changing animals in response to nature or genetic pressure or our selection pressure
that's true.
unless you understand the mechanisms of genetics, which comes from Charles Darwin.
That's so true,
You
Alexander. Yeah.
can't talk about it without that.
Hmm.
Of course, if you're raising a puppy, this is still a very good book. The Art of Raising a Puppy by the Monks of New Ski.
Hmm.
Still a very good practical book. A book I'm gonna switch screen to show the name of the book because I don't have it in front of me. So I'm gonna just show you on a page, and because I can't find it. So I'm gonna share
Okay.
my screen and show you the book name. 1 second, please. Present. You have no slides? No, that's not what I'm trying to do.
I don't
Share
see it yet.
screen. Share
Okay.
screen. Ah, I see it. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna just go them one by one.
Okay.
So this gentleman, Konrad Most, I want you to memorize this name.
I'm gonna write this down.
That's a
Conrad.
book by Mr. Konrad Most. I'll explain what his significance is, but I just want to put the list
Oh,
out first.
yeah,
Yes, go
that's
ahead.
a bad boy. Yeah.
Konrad Most is a 50 years of dog training came from him and his theories.
Hmm. Yeah.
So before anybody else wrote a book on dog training, he wrote a book in 1910.
Yes,
It
sir.
doesn't go back. He wrote a book before World War One.
Hmm.
Now he was German. He organized the uh, German Shepherd training system in Germany, and he established a state-owned breeding program. He created a program for police dog training in Germany. He trained dogs for the armed forces for the German soldiers of World War One.
Hmm.
He then created a program for teaching the blind. Remember I told you that teaching the blind, how many dogs were successful based on genetics for teaching blind.
Right.
He founded that school.
Wow. Okay.
So he's a very interesting person because if you read his book, it's not truly a correction-based book. Anyhow, let me first go through all the books and then we're gonna go back to him.
Okay.
Let me see if I can switch to the other screen. Here's the book. Can everybody see this picture?
No, you need to take that. Wait. Oh, yeah. Hold on. I see it. Never mind.
Can you see it? I'm not sure.
Uh.
Training books. Can you see it? It says training books, a manual.
Yeah.
Colonel Conrad Most. This
Oh.
book
Oh.
is
Wait a
still.
minute.
Can you see it, or I have to reshare it?
Nah, you probably
Let me
have to
re let
reshare it.
yeah, let me
Yeah.
reshare it because I don't think it switches screens properly. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, share screen.
Thanks for
Okay.
everybody for tuning in tonight.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you
Please
guys.
like, share, subscribe. Make sure you go to Alexander's channel as well and look at all that good content he has over there.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes, sir.
Can
Here we
everybody
go.
see this Training Dogs by Konrad Most?
Yes, sir.
This book influenced dog training for 50 years. His method was from 1910 till 1954, translated from German into English. And this book is extremely influential because it was the way to train dogs. There was no other way to train dogs. This was the way because he systematized an approach, and I'm going to talk about it in a second. And then, of course, we can't talk about dog training. Let me reshare the screen again because I think I lose it and I have to reshare as I go because I'm not sure how this program works 100%, but we'll do the best we can here. So if it's not switching cleanly, please forgive me. Can everybody see this book?
Yep.
F.B. Skinner, The Behavior of Organisms and Related, first published in 1938. So the so uh, this was the book which was not classical conditioning. This was the book which began operant conditioning. So there are two. I'm going to go into that in a minute. I want to just show all the books and then we're going to go into each one. So F.B. Skinner, remember that name. He was actually not a dog trainer. He was
Yeah.
actually a human psychiatrist and
Okay.
psychologist. So let me stop that screen. Bear with me. I'm going to share the next book.
Gotcha.
I'm just trying to show first all the books we're going to talk about really quickly, and then we're going to talk about them individually. So I'm going to be, quick as I can, but I want to not forget. Um, bear with me as I um, bring up the next book and share the screen. Um, okay, so let me share the screen again.
Okay.
Sorry about that, guys. Okay, can
There we go.
everybody see this page?
Got it.
You see this stern-looking man?
Yeah.
This German guy here, Prussian actually, was the father of the German Shepherd.
Okay.
Uh, Captain Max von Stephanitz. He created the German Shepherd.
Okay.
This man is the creator of the German Shepherd. He wrote a book in 1925 called The German Shepherd.
Mm.
And this book is expensive. It's about $150 for this book, which is expensive for a book.
Dang that. Yeah. On
That's
eBay too.
Yeah, it's expensive because it's not in print that much.
Oh wow.
Can anybody see this page?
Yep. We can see it.
So it's the translation from German, written in 1925. This is it talks in detail about how he developed the breed initially, but he has a lot to say about training dogs. A lot. So more than half of this book is about obedience training, and he has a lot to say. So in other words, it's a genetics book for the first half and a dog training book in the second half. And it was written in 1925. It's interesting to read what the founder of the German Shepherd had to say about dog training,
Mm.
because so oh, here it is, the German Shepherd in Word and Picture, volume 1923, to leather bound. So this guy is selling it for $45. That's a
Right.
good price. That's a good price for this
Somebody
one.
need to cop that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good price because it's
Yeah.
usually 150.
Right.
So so the founder of the German Shepherd had a lot to say about how to train dogs. It's a very trainable breed. So you want to know what the man who created the breed has to say.
Mm-hmm.
There's a book by author named William Kohler, which was a correction-based trainer. he had a lot to say about training dogs.
Yeah, I got that one right here actually.
Yes, I have that one. I can't find it, but
Yeah.
it's actually available in two formats. It's available for a obedience book alone.
Hmm.
Then there's a this book you have in your hand is the combo book. It's the one with protection training in the second half of the book and obedience training in the beginning of the book.
Right. Hmm.
And when I was growing up, you would go to the store, you would look at the shelf for this book. This was an expensive book. I was in high school in the 80s, so that tells you how old I am. But
Hmm.
the that book was like $40 in the 80s.
Yeah.
That was like an expensive book. Uh,
Yeah.
so that was still a very it was a very influential book. So all the books I'm mentioning are not your run-of-the-mill books which are available now. Now everybody's publishing a book on dog training, and
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
they think they're somebody special.
Yeah.
They think they've discovered something new under the sun.
Hmm.
But in reality, the books I'm mentioning are foundational books. They are at the cornerstone of dog training methods. So let's talk about that really quickly.
Okay.
In the training an animal, there are two mechanisms of learning. There's classical conditioning and there's operant conditioning. In classical conditioning, let's say this applies to children too. If a child touches a hot stove and gets burnt, it learns not to touch a hot stove because it will be burnt. So you're building an association, whether through negative or positive reinforcement. So it comes from Pavlov's dogs. Every time he brought food, they rang a bell, and the dogs would start to salivate, anticipating food when they heard that bell. So
Hmm.
basically, a classical conditioning is building an association. It's saying if I say sit and I give you a piece of food, every time you do the sit command, you get a piece of food. Or I tell you down, in German, Platz. You know, I give you a Platz command, you're going to go down and you're going to get a piece of food. So
Hmm.
it's basically classical conditioning is building an association between a behavior and a reward or a negative consequence.
Hmm.
And dogs were trained with classical conditioning for the longest. They're still trained with classical conditioning. But not until the work of F.B. Skinner came around was there a new way of training dogs called operant conditioning.
Hmm.
Now, who's F.B. Skinner? F.B. Skinner was a psychologist who created a model called the operant model. This model holds that if I reward a behavior over and over and over, it is likely to be repeated.
Hmm.
So if I, for example, I'm your teacher in school and you turn in a homework assignment on time, and I give you a piece of chocolate every time you turn in a homework assignment, you're going to turn in your homework assignment on time because I
Yeah.
give you a piece of chocolate every time you turn in your homework assignment on time. Now,
Right.
how is that different from classical conditioning? Classical conditioning is that it happens immediately. There's no
Right.
anticipation of reward, there's the association of a reward. But he also holds a different view, and that is he treats animals and humans as a black box. In other words, there's no mind. Of course, he knows there's a mind, but you can't judge the mind. You can only judge inputs and outputs. So I give you an example. He built a box for a rat, and he made the rat push a lever and get a piece of food every time he pushed the lever.
Hmm.
Now, the rat was not shown the food and the lever. The rat was
Hmm.
just put in the box, and it accidentally tripped the lever, and a piece of food came out. And then oh, that happened. Then it tripped the lever again. Another piece of food came out.
Right.
Next time that rat went in that box, it immediately pushed the lever. Initially, it didn't know the lever produced food, but it knew to go right to the lever and press and get food.
Hmm.
So what we're doing is we're teaching a method which is later called, we now teach luring and shaping.
Hmm.
What is shaping? Imagine I had to teach a robot to pick up this glass or this plastic cup. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, remember, I'm not teaching a person. I'm teaching a robot. So how would I teach a robot to pick up this cup, which we don't even think about? We just pick up a cup like nothing. It's like inconsequential behavior for
Yeah,
us,
we
right?
program
Right.
it.
It's not. We don't even think about it, right? But
Mhm.
how would I teach a robot? Because I'm writing a program
Mhm.
to teach a mechanical hand how. Okay, so what I would do first is I would teach a robot to approach the cup. Every time it approaches the cup, I give it a positive 3-point score.
I
It
remember
moves.
this. I remember this in college. Yeah.
Yeah, it moves the hand further
Mhm.
away from the cup. It gets a negative score.
Mhm.
It's like saying warmer, warmer, warmer. As you get warmer,
Right.
you're getting rewarded. As you get colder, you don't get rewarded, right?
Right.
All right, now the robot hand knows to go to the cup. Now it has to grip the cup with enough grip that it doesn't crush it, but not so loose that the cup falls through.
Right.
So now it gets points for how tightly it grips the cup.
Mhm.
Too tight, it crushes the cup. Too loosely, the cup falls through. So now you're teaching it to approach and grip.
Mhm.
Okay, now that's the next step of the exercise. Now it must lift the cup without spilling it this way or that way. You must teach it attitude control. It has an azimuth, right? In other words, it must learn not to turn as it's picking something up. It must pick it up straight,
Right.
right? Now, so that sounds complicated. Wow, you have to do all that to teach a robot to pick up a cup?
Mhm.
Yes,
Mhm.
because it doesn't understand anything. It knows you're teaching it a behavior, which is to pick up a cup, which is nothing.
Mhm.
But to a robot, you're teaching it as a series of steps. You're teaching it as approach the cup,
Mhm.
grip the cup with enough force to hold, but not enough force to crush,
Mhm.
lift the cup without tilting it. All of these individual steps are taught discreetly. And then the behavior chain is chained together to get to the end result, which is the hand goes over and picks up the cup. Now,
Right.
this idea of teaching it as a chain of small behaviors and chaining it together, that came from F.B. Skinner.
Mhm.
That came from a series of approximations until you get to the end result.
Right.
So
And
he,
doing this point, Alexander, when you're doing this luring, you're not really talking to the dog, or are you
no,
talking to the dog, or you just
no, you're not.
teaching
So,
them? Okay. Okay.
right, you teaching the dog that it gets a click at the instant it gets it right.
Okay.
So the dog has been first taught, it's called charging the mark. The dog has been taught the click means food is coming.
Mhm.
That's classical conditioning.
Classical, yeah.
But then once you've developed that association, now it approaches the behavior you want, and it's like the closer. Now, even if it, like for example, let's say you're teaching the dumbbell retrieve for a German Shepherd to hold the dumbbell in its mouth.
Mhm.
Now, there's two methods. There's the force retrieve, which was using an ear pinch and holding the dog's mouth open by force until it's forced to hold. It drops it, it gets pain, it gets the ear pinched. So that was the force retrieve. But um, in the motivational retrieve, that's not how you teach it. You put the dog in a sit. You tie it so it can't move around, so it's just sitting there. You put the dumbbell near its mouth and it just touches it with its nose. It gets a click and a reward. Oh, you're showing curiosity for this object? Fine.
Mhm.
I'm going to reward you for that. Then you open up its mouth and put the dumbbell in and close its mouth and it's going to spit it out. Like, what are you putting in my mouth? But you putting something in my mouth, I'm going to give you a piece of food. Oh, okay. That's not so bad. I
Yeah.
do it again. Now it wants the food, so it'll grab it. It won't
Yeah.
hold it, but it'll grab it.
Right.
Now, as this goes on, eventually you hold the thing longer in its mouth. You're teaching it that I'm going to put my hands on your top and your bottom of your jaw, and I'm going to make this. You hold this stupid thing, and dog will accept it. Eventually, you're going to let go of the upper part, and eventually, you're going to lower your hand from the lower part of the chin, and the dog must still hold it even though you released your hands.
Mhm.
And then you're going to do that for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds until the duration is built. All of a sudden, the dog is holding the dumbbell. Then you're going to teach the dog through its prey drive to go bring up the dumbbell. And when it comes over, it has to hold it, but already knows how to hold it from the earlier exercise. So the
Mhm.
idea is I'm teaching the hold first, and I'm teaching the bring second. And even the hold I'm not teaching as one step. Even the hold I'm teaching as show interest, reward, grip, reward, grip for with duration, reward. In other words, I'm teaching the idea of the dumbbell retrieve as a lot of little baby steps that I'm piecing together until I get to the final result.
Mhm.
This idea of teaching in small baby steps until you get the behavior chain and chaining it all together, that came from F.B. Skinner.
Okay.
What's an example that he did? So in World War II, I'm sure everybody knows this, we didn't have guided bombs because we didn't have the electronics to guide a bomb. So they built like a glider type thing with wings and surfaces that could, you know, twist and turn like a rudder and elevators. And in other words, it was a glider. But on the glider was a bomb. Now, to make the bomb dropped and not hit the target, you just wasted men's lives, which flew to a target location, and they're getting shot with anti-aircraft fire from underground. The enemy is shooting that aircraft with cannons.
Hmm.
So the men's lives were wasted if you can't drop that bomb at that munitions factory, right?
Right.
But remember, you don't have the electronics for a guided bomb. So what
Hmm.
do? F.B. Skinner was hired by the U.S. Air Force, and he taught a pigeon to peck a crosshair. Peck, 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 peck. Every time the pigeon pecked on the center of the crosshairs, it would get a food reward. Then they put the pigeon inside the bomb. I'm telling you, this is really real.
Yeah.
They put a pigeon inside the bomb, and every time the bomb would move because it was off its trajectory, the crosshairs would move because there was a gyroscope telling it your attitude of the. But you couldn't have a. It was a mechanical gyroscope. It wasn't electronic yet.
Right.
We're talking about 1940s, not talking
Right.
about
Right.
now.
Uh-huh.
So the pigeon, and of course it's a bird, so it's in flight. It doesn't mind. In other words, if it's a mammal, with its earlobes would have been adjusted because it's in being dropped.
Right.
So this pigeon is taught to peck on the ground reliably. Then they take the same pigeon and put it in a glider holding a bomb. And the pigeon pecking at the crosshairs got the bomb on target and not to waste the bomb or the men flying over enemy airspace.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
F.B. Skinner used pigeons and classic
Mm.
and operant conditioning
Yeah.
to land bombs against the Nazis.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
another thing, we may not like to hear it, but this happened with the Soviets. They would teach a dog to run under a tank,
Hmm.
and the underbelly of a tank is where you could explode a tank. They taught
Mm.
dogs to run under tanks and lie down.
Mm.
They would repeat this over and over. Finally, on the day of the dog needed to be deployed. One second, I'm on the phone. Finally, the day the dog needed to be deployed, the poor dog would run under a tank as it's been trained, but now it's wearing a bomb vest, and they would explode the dog along with the tank. Guess where
Wow.
they got the idea of how to train dogs to lie under a tank?
Where's that?
F.B. Skinner.
Wow. That's nuts.
What about dolphins, which is he's most known for, which would swim up to a submarine and place a magnetic bomb on a submarine, and they were trained to swim next to a submarine, and every time they got a submarine, they got a piece of fish, and they have to come up for air and get fish because it's a mammal, it's not a fish.
Right.
So dolphins were taught to attach a bomb to a submarine. Well, guess what? That bomb didn't explode in practice. It was just a magnetic
Yeah.
cup device. But on the day they needed the enemy submarine exploded, they would explode the dolphin with the bomb to explode the enemy submarine.
Wow. Wow.
F.B. Skinner.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
But true.
Yeah.
So
The
so the
history.
yeah, so he trained birds, dolphins, rats using what became known as operant conditioning.
Hmm.
Now, of course, he was able to demonstrate to the US Army his theory works. Now, that's the sad part of some of his training, but the good part is he was able to show that there are four quadrants in training a dog. You have. Can you hold on 1 second? I have a lot of
Yeah,
barking. I'm gonna
yeah,
one
yeah.
second.
Go ahead. Yeah, we good.
I
Yeah,
apologize. 1 second.
it's all right. What's up, Chad? Glad y'all can make it. Alexander dropping those bombs tonight on he he's a wealth of knowledge. Y'all don't hear him over the phone. Salute, Ohio mom. Yeah, thanks for reminding us about Mr. Robert Cabral situation. That's interesting. I just watched on YouTube chickens being trained to do agility course. Superior warrior. Salute. For sure. Ohio Malawi mom. Hi there. So essentially how we all learned our ABCs. Holy cow, bomb information, mind blown. RGB Lone Wolf. Hey brother. Hey Jordan, Lynn, everybody in the chat. Salute to you all. Hey caveman. I saw you in there too. Doug, salute to Doug. Doug is in there. I'm gonna try to have a show tomorrow, guys. Uh, it's gonna be some top-notch Rottweiler breeders and show people. Talk a little bit about confirmation. Here go Alexander.
Sorry, guys. That's what happens when you have dogs.
Yep.
When you're a dog breeder, you don't have vacations and you can't have 5 minutes peace. You have to always
Yeah.
take care of the dogs.
That's one thing I got to figure. I got to figure out how to get a vacation. I figure we'd take little mini weekends, but it's very hard to get a
You have
vacation.
to maybe pay for boarding situation somewhere else. But if you have a lot of dogs, maybe just have a person babysit your house.
Yeah, but sometimes the breeds they be scared of the breeds. I had one. I used to have a vet. My vet assistant used to do it, but she moved deeper into Missouri. I was like, God.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. People don't realize breeders can't take vacations.
yeah, yeah, for real. Yeah, yeah.
So getting back to FB Skinner, FB Skinner developed what's called the operant conditioning model. Now, in this model, there are four quadrants. You have plus R, minus R, plus P, minus P. People, what does that mean? Minus R is punishment. Now, punishment does not mean like we think in human beings. I'm going to hit you. No, it's just a term for, it's positive and negative reinforcement. So
Mm.
the withholding of a reward is punishment. That's minus R, meaning I didn't actually give you a correction, but I withheld the reward.
Okay.
So withholding a reward is minus R.
Uh-huh.
Giving a correction with a prong collar or an e-collar is plus R.
Plus R. Okay.
So they're both punishment, but in one case I'm withholding a reward, which is considered punishment,
Hmm.
and in one case I'm administrating a correction, which is also punishment.
Hmm.
So withholding a reward is considered punishment. Now, if I use spatial pressure to push the dog back, like I'm teaching it to walk back in the
Right.
back up command, using spatial pressure, that's punishment. I'm imposing my space on you. Now,
Right.
so people use the word punishment, but they don't understand. It's not negative in that you're hurting the animal. It's
Hmm.
anything negative, anything. Like I'm saying
Right.
to the dog, no, stop that. That's punishment.
Hmm.
Now, so the word punishment is not to be used in a way we understand the word punishment as
Hmm.
like literally punishment, like you're
Right.
punishing the animal in a harsh way. In other words,
Right.
it's punishment in the behavioral model sense, not in a real world sense. I don't know if that kind of makes sense.
Now, yeah, I understand. Like in the South, the word ignorant can sometimes be taken as offensive instead of
Right.
just saying it just means not knowing. But some
That's
people
right.
take offense to that.
In other words, it's meant to be a neutral word, but people put emotion into it. It's not
Right.
meant like that.
Yes, right.
And now you have positive R and minus R. What does that mean? There's a concept in called primary reinforcers and secondary reinforcers.
Hmm.
People says, what? I'll give you an example. Two examples. In my breed, which is a high drive breed, well, I breed working lines, not show lines. So the working lines are high drive. The show lines are couch potatoes. So that's a whole different story. But we're talking about the working German Shepherd, not the show line German Shepherd.
Right.
You can still find some working examples, but primarily not. Primarily, they're mostly show dogs. But anyhow, so these dogs are usually trained with a prey object as a reward. I use a ball and a string, and I use a game of exchange. I give you one ball in exchange for the other ball. That's how we get the out command. Now, if I'm teaching focus healing, I put the ball under my armpit and the dog's attention is to the ball, but it looks like he's looking at your face. But really, he's looking at the ball, which is acting as a lure. Now, initially, I teach that way and I build the behavior until it becomes repeated often enough that it becomes on cue. In other words, it becomes automatic.
Right.
That's again FB Skinner. If you repeat a behavior often enough, you get a dopamine rush, and the behavior becomes desirable, and you constantly rewarded for that behavior. That means the odds of you repeating that behavior grow higher and higher the more often the behavior is practiced. The same thing with a child. Sometimes a child seeks negative attention just to get attention because negative attention is better than no attention.
No attention. Yeah.
Now, as the parents work with that child and they constantly yell at him for doing something wrong, but they never give him any positive uh, feedback, they always yell at him for something to do it. Otherwise, the child is being ignored. Okay, well, the child will definitely misbehave because it thinks I'm bad, and it grows up with that psychology. So negative attention is better than no attention. So again, a behavior which is repeated is likely to become um, a habit. In other
Okay.
words, if you do something 4 or 5 times in a row, every time the same way, it can become a habit.
Uh,
That's the idea of F.B. Skinner. A
Right.
behavior which is repeated, can be repeated over and over, it becomes on cue as a habit. In other words, the behavior of looking up as I'm healing becomes a habit because it was reinforced for over a year in training. The dog looking up like this as it's healing becomes natural for the dog, which is an unnatural behavior. Um, so the idea is that behavior can be predicted if it's done often enough and rewarded. Let me say that again. Behavior can become predictable if it's repeated often enough and is rewarded.
Gotcha. Right.
Now, so let's say I now have to break the dog from having the ball under my arm because I can't do it in a trial, but I um, must still reward the dog. Now I'm making the dog walk and I have the ball on my side of my body and I'm twisting it
Mm.
like a propeller. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the dog must pay attention to me even though it really wants that ball.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a secondary reinforcer. When I release you from the primary behavior, you'll go get your reward. Or I put the ball on the field, on the grass. Now you must give me attention to my face. Now the ball is not near me under my arm. It's over there in the grass. The dog knows it's on the grass.
Mm-hmm.
So I get the behavior I want out of you, which is looking up as you're healing, but then you can go get your reward. So you're switching it from being a primary reinforcer, which acts as a lure for the behavior, to being a secondary reinforcer, because I can't have it near me in a trial. Or there's the concept of level of reward. For example, in most working German Shepherds, the bite is the biggest reward. That's what they live for. They're like, I want that bite sleeve, right? They're really like amped up to get it. Now,
Yeah.
the bite sleeve is a bigger reward than a ball on the string because although they both invoke prey drive, the ball on the string is play prey drive, but the bite sleeve is prey drive slash aggression drive. Which is the higher reward, the bite or the play with a ball? The bite.
Mm-hmm.
So if you looked at one of my videos on my channel, you see a dog named Ike and his owner, Mr. Izzy, elderly gentleman, holds a bite pillow in his arms as he's healing the dog. I'm like, why are you using a bite pillow? It's because this dog loves to bite.
Mm-hmm.
So his primary reinforcer is to get once the obedience routine is over, he gives him the sleeve. He tugs with him with that bite pillow.
Mm-hmm.
While he's doing the routine, there's also a ball in the field, acting as a secondary reinforcer. Eventually, he doesn't use the bite pillow anymore because you can't do that in a trial.
Mm-hmm.
But he always still rewards the dog with the secondary reinforcer, which is on the field, which is a bite toy, a
Yeah.
ball on the string.
Right.
So there's the idea of a primary reinforcer of higher value and a secondary reinforcer of lower value. The idea of two levels of reinforcers versus one,
Mhm.
F.B. Skinner.
Wow. Okay.
So the idea of using primary and secondary reinforcers, F.B. Skinner. The idea of doing a behavior chain to teach a more complex behavior through a series of approximations, F.B. Skinner.
Mm,
All these ideas of how to train came from F.B. Skinner.
mhm.
Now, that brings me back 50 years in time to Konrad Most. Even though he lived and wrote his book in 1910, remember World War I started in 1914 and ended 1918. So
Mhm.
1910 was 4 years before the beginning of World War I. Now, even though F.B. Skinner wasn't around and wouldn't write his book until 36 years later, Konrad Most, the German, Prussian, Germany wasn't reunited as a country until the beginning of the 20th century. So you had Bavaria as a kingdom, Prussia as a kingdom, you had
Mhm.
German kingdoms, but they were not one country.
Right.
In the 19th century, that's how it was. And then in World War One, you had Austro-Hungarian Empire, so Austria and Germany and a lot of what are now Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia, what became Yugoslavia. This was all one empire, Austro-Hungarian Empire. So that exists. So in other words, he was German, but there was uh, anyhow there was Austro-Hungarian. I'm not going to go into history, but the bottom line is that he also had the idea of primary and secondary reinforcers in his book, but he didn't call them that.
Mm,
He also writes in his book, you must train with a warm heart but a cold mind. And I'm reading this book and I'm like, you must train with a warm heart but a cold mind. What is he writing? Is this a bad translation from German?
mhm.
I mean, that's what he writes. That's one of the
Right.
pages in his book. What he meant was you must be dispassionate in training a dog. I see too many pet owners train their dogs and they lose their temper and they get angry at the animal. You're
Yeah.
not getting it. And they will lose their temper and they start being really hard on the dog, which is why I don't advocate pet level people using e-collars. They treat
Mm.
that thing like a remote control on their
Good
TV
point.
and they start pushing it like, or they stop amping up the voltage on the rheostat to get the animal a stronger and stronger shock.
Yeah.
It's not a, we're so much into gadgets nowadays. We have a gadgetry mindset. I got to get the latest iPhone. Why? The old one doesn't work? Of course it works.
Mhm.
We always want the latest piece of electronics. We're in a very electronics oriented mindset. I got to get the latest car because it has all these additional gadgets. Why? The old car doesn't work? It still works, right?
Right. Right.
We're very gadget driven in today's society.
Yeah.
Now, but you're dealing with an animal, you're not dealing with a gadget, but we have a
Right.
gadget psychology. Now, what he meant was when you're training an animal, if you're in a bad mood from work and then you go out to train your dog, don't train your dog in a bad mood.
Mhm.
Just lay off that day because you're in a bad mood and you're going to take your emotions out on the dog. And it doesn't deserve to be treated with unkindness and pain because you were pissed off at something at work and you're taking it out on the dog.
Yeah.
You're not kicking your dog because you were in a bad mood, right?
Right.
So what he meant was train with a kind heart. In other words, always show kindness to the animal, but with a clear mind, meaning try to focus on what you're trying to accomplish in that lesson and only focus on that, but always show kindness to the animal.
Hmm.
And he wrote that in a book from 1910, Train
Right.
with a kind heart, but a cold mind.
Right.
In other words, apply reasoning to what you're trying to accomplish in that lesson, but don't be mean to the animal. And that was put on paper for people to follow. Now, how many people understood what he wrote, I don't know. So his book by Colonel Konrad Most was The Way You Train Animals, German Shepherd specifically, but
Mhm.
other dogs as well,
Mhm.
or from 1910 until the work of F.B. Skinner. Was it 34 or 1936? I don't remember, but from 1910 until 1936, but actually longer because F.B. Skinner was only known in the scientific community. His work was not popularized to the masses.
Right.
So really in the 1950s, you had a trainer named William Kohler, which was what's called escape and avoidance training.
Right.
Back then you had what's called the dominance theory. They felt that if the animal is not listening to you, it's a very militaristic mindset. It's you're the colonel, the dog is the soldier, and
Mhm.
the soldier must listen to its colonel.
Yeah.
And if it's not, it's being insubordinate. In other words, it's doing it on purpose because it's showing rank and it's not respecting your authority. In
Mhm.
reality, dog doesn't know what the hell you want, and that's why it's not doing it. Not because it's not respecting your authority. And it's unfair to correct an animal which doesn't understand what you want. Now, if
Mhm.
you've shown the animal what you want repeatedly and it still doesn't do it, now that's a problem with behavior. But that's not out of the outset. You don't train assuming the animal understands. People anthropomorphize dogs. They think they're little children. They're
Mhm.
not. They're dogs. That's why I don't like people calling dogs fur babies. They're not fur babies.
The dogs.
They're
Yeah.
dogs. They're
Yeah.
not human babies with fur.
Right.
It's wrong to think that way because it leads to, I mean, we can love them, but it leads to a different way of dealing with an animal. We no
Mm.
longer say, I'm your master to a dog. Instead, we say pet parents. We treat them like children, but we're not parents to the animal. Its dog's mother and father are its parents. We are its masters. So you don't own, in other words, you have to understand the animal as it is for what it is, not anthropomorphize it. You're trying to add human attributes to an animal.
Right.
It's not a human being.
Yeah.
And so the way of training a dog by anthropomorphizing them is wrong. So William Kohler wrote a book. In other words, you instead of giving the dog food and getting its head up into a sit and poop and the butt down or pushing down on the collar to get the dog into a down,
Right.
the idea was I'm going to correct you, and that's how I'm training you. I'm correcting you into the position I want you to have.
Mhm.
The modern method would be to lure with food until the dog gets it, and it's reward based. Now I'm going to correct you. So now training is divided into three phases. People don't understand. Most people don't understand that. There's a learning phase where there is no correction and there's no expectations. In fact, I don't expect anything of a dog except to just listen to me and give it its attention to me, and I'll try to teach it behavior. Up
Mm.
until 6 months of age, I don't even put a prong collar on a dog. It's too young.
Right.
And even at 6 months, it depends on the size of the dog. It might need a prong collar because of the strength of the dog, but
Right.
I don't put a prong collar on a dog before 6, 7 months of age.
It don't make sense.
It does.
Yeah.
They're too small to understand
Yeah.
what you want now, and they psychologically need to grow up. The bottom line is there's a learning phase where you're just teaching through induction and repetition. Then there's a distraction phase. Now the behavior you taught in your kitchen with no distractions around you, now you're teaching it in a park because dogs don't generalize. They don't understand that if I teach the word sit in a kitchen, it's the same exact command in a park or in the flower shop or in the grocery store. You must understand the command no matter the location you're in. But dogs don't generalize. They don't understand that this command means the sit command regardless of location.
Yep.
They don't get it. They have to be taught to generalize a command. The down command must be down command absolutely no matter the location. But we think, well, we said down. So why aren't you going down? I taught you the down.
Yeah.
Dogs don't generalize. They
Yeah.
understand down in this context. In
Right.
my house, in the same location,
Right.
under the same distraction-free environment. That's where you start layering in corrections for not doing it because it must now comply something it's been taught. Now that's the second phase of training, distraction proofing. The third phase of training is building distance and reliability. So for example, let's say I teach a dog down.
Mhm.
I usually teach on a platform so the dog gets off the platform and understand it broke the command. But you can also teach it directly on the ground. Now, I then step 3 steps away from it and I step back toward the dog 3 steps and I give it a piece of food for holding the command. Then I step away 5 steps and I come back and get a piece of food. Now the dog breaks, I go back to that spot, correct it, and do it again. When I see the dog tuning out, I stop the training session.
Mhm.
I'm gonna then eventually increase it to 10 steps away, 20 steps away, 30
Mhm.
steps away, until the dog understands I must hold the command until released.
Right.
But that's done slowly, and they eventually do it on the long line. The dog knows I'm 25 feet away from you, but until I get the release, if I stand up, I'm going to be corrected.
Mhm.
Eventually, the dog has been conditioned to the e-collar on a low level, and now it's been taught that if I get up, I get a slight stim, which is the same thing as a correction on the popping on the leash.
Right.
And now you eventually have no line, and the dog still has a down stay, even though mechanically I'm not tethered to the dog anymore. I'm far away.
Mhm.
So that's where the e-collar becomes. It becomes a long line. It becomes an electronic long line.
Mhm.
Uh, or you could teach the come with the e-collar. You get that pop with the electricity. You're gonna run to me. You're gonna get rewarded. And the moment
Right.
you start running my way, the electricity stops.
Right.
So it has to be paired with the energy. You don't start off with the e-collar on a dog which has no idea what downstay means.
Yeah.
You build up to it with small duration, more and more duration, more and more duration, and more distance and duration combined.
Mhm.
Finally, you get to the point where you can be off leash. At that point, you still need a way to correct at a distance. Now you add the e-collar. Whereas people start off in reverse. They get the behavior through the e-collar, so they're punishing the dog for something he doesn't know.
Right.
So, in other words, when you're doing something, you have to think what you're doing. You have to understand. The animal doesn't understand what you want, and it doesn't understand your intentions. You're not trying to hurt it. You should be very careful in using corrections until the dog really understands what you want from it, not use them up front. Now, a lot of people have ego problems. A lot of people want to show how macho they are by taking out their frustrations on a poor, helpless animal.
Oh boy.
That's stupid
Yeah.
because not only you're not accomplishing any training, but you're being a bully.
Yeah.
So, a small, helpless animal, and I'm dealing with my small, I mean German Shepherds and Rottweilers,
Mhm.
they're not small, but they're mentally small compared to us. They're like a 3-year-old child
Right.
mentally. You don't take out your aggression on an animal. You feel frustrated, go to the gym and hit a bag.
Mhm.
Get your frustrations out on a heavy bag, or lift some weights. You'll feel better. But
Right.
basically, the idea of training is really between these two main giants. You had Konrad Most, which started off the mechanism of how to train a dog,
Mhm.
and FB Skinner. Everybody in between is just rehashing the same topic, putting their name on the book.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Right.
those are the two giants.
Yeah.
Everything else is just modifications and small tune-ups of the same main idea.
Right.
Either you're training with correction-based training, because no other method was existing. So the idea was to break the animal into compliance rather than teach through positive reinforcement. Now, the book by Sheila Booth, let me put up that book and
Sheila Booth.
let me,
Pure
let me,
positive only, right? Something like that.
yes, that's right. I want people to see the picture.
Okay. Hey everybody, would you guys hit the like button for us? So
I want to show the picture for people to know what I'm talking about because people maybe have not seen these books before.
thank you.
I
Great
want to make
interview.
sure people know what I'm saying.
Right.
Um, Let me know, Joe, if everybody can see the screen. Can
I
everybody
got
see
it. I'm gonna pull it up now. Yeah, here we go.
I'm bringing up the picture of the cover of the book. That's a little
Mhm.
small. Let me see if I can get a bigger picture. Can everybody see this picture of a German Shepherd that says pure positive training?
Yep, we see it really
Or
good.
not? I'm not sure if it comes because it's not by itself. It's a lot of other stuff on the screen.
Yeah, we see the images of Sheila Booth pure positive training and
Right. Okay. Now, so around the 1980s is when um, people started switching from correction-based training, which was given by um, uh, William Kohler, who is the king of correction-based training. His book is not based on Konrad Most. Konrad Most advocated rewards and corrections, not corrections only. Kohler was very militaristic. He was very heavily correction-based training.
mhm,
He was very heavily into dominance-based theory, that if the dog fails to comply, it's because it's disobeying you because it wants to show dominance to you. Now, a lot of people still train this way. They train based on dominance theory. It's been disproven. Not that dominance doesn't exist between members of a pack. I'm not saying that,
right.
but that's not the basis of training a dog. In other words, yes, there is dominance in dogs. There's definitely a pecking structure in a wolf pack. There's the alpha wolf and the alpha female. There is a hierarchy in birds, dogs. That's how nature works. But that's not the basis of training an animal. So as we left the 70s and 60s and 50s, we started adopting more positive based techniques. And Sheila Booth, a book written in the early 90s, was
Mhm,
one of the pioneers of positive only training.
mhm.
And she uses something called the Premack principle. She's heavy on that word, the Premack principle.
Okay.
Her book is based on the idea of preemption. In other words, let's say you get a puppy home, which most people do. I'm sorry. And and the puppy doesn't know how to behave. So what is the puppy gonna do? Well, like any puppy will explore its territory. So what is it gonna do? It's gonna chew your shoes. It's gonna chew your sweater. It's gonna chew your couch. Right? That's what it's gonna do. I mean, it's a
Mhm.
puppy.
Yeah.
Now, what if you put the puppy in a playpen when you can't pay attention to it, and then you go about cooking lunch or cooking dinner, and you give the puppy toys. You rotate the toys every 3 days, and then when you can pay attention, you pay attention to the puppy. And when you can't, it goes in the playpen. Now, you prevented bad behavior. That's the Premack principle. So her idea of training dogs was you prevent behavior which you know will happen ahead of time. It's much easier to prevent bad behavior and prevent it from becoming a habit than to fix it after it has become already a habit.
Right.
That is the main part of her book.
Okay.
I mean, she teaches the down, the stand. She teaches all the basics in her book,
Mhm.
but those are commands. But most people don't have a problem with commands. Like dogs counter surfing for food and stealing from the countertops. That's not the
Mm.
sit down or come command. That's the dog
Right.
misbehaving.
Yeah.
Or the dog chewing your shoes or chewing your favorite leather couch. That's nothing to do with the sit down and come. That's a dog misbehaving in terms of being in the house. So by preventing formation of bad habits, the dog will not develop bad habits. Now, how to do that? Like for example, how do you prevent the dog from pulling you out the door as you walk out, so you almost trip and break your neck?
Mhm,
That's in her book. How to make a dog enter the doorway neatly and nicely and
mhm.
not pull you, and how to enter the house without pulling you in. You have to stand in the door, do it. I do that with my dogs. Wait, wait, and the dog then enters until it's
Right.
given a release.
Mhm,
So the idea of building behavior without punishment but through prevention, that's a big part of her book.
mhm.
Now, after her book was released, this was before we had these Nazis of no corrections, don't you dare use any corrections. Now, she doesn't advocate for prong collars or e-collars in her book. She's actually against it, but she's not like a vocal crazy about it. In other words, she would prevent it if possible to use a correction. There was no e-collars when that book was written, or
Right.
they were very primitive. Uh, there was mostly prong collars and choke chains. But the bottom line is, if you can prevent using a prong collar and a choke chain by conditioning the positive behavior you want and preventing negative behavior, then you don't need to give corrections because you've prevented bad behavior in the first place. So a lot of that book is about prevention. So, and of course, when we get to Schutzhund, you get the books like this, which show what kind of behavior and how to build the behavior slowly over time. See, a lot of people expect instant results. I deal sometimes with customers hiring me as a trainer. I do board and train. I don't do lesson by lesson. Um, and they want very quick results because time is money. So they'll go to a trainer which charges a fee for 2 weeks because that's all they can afford,
Hmm.
and they want very quick results. Well, remember, if you're going to guarantee certain results in only 2 weeks, the dog is not even used to you in the first week. It has to trust you and build a relationship with you first, and
Hmm.
then you can teach it something, right? So that first
Yep.
week is just just a hello week as far as the
Right.
dog is concerned. Why should I listen to you? You're not my master. I don't know you. Or why should I listen to you?
That's true.
So the dog is like giving a lot of corrections with a lot of force using the e-collar to break it in order to make it behave. Whereas I am not in a hurry to teach my dogs. I take my time and I build a relationship, and I build a relationship of trust, and I do positive reinforcement. Now, once I get to a certain point, I add corrections.
Hmm.
My way is longer and slower, but it's less harsh.
Right.
So, but everybody wants to think, well, I went to a dog trainer and I didn't get any results. He took
Well,
advantage.
yeah, you said something that I talked to somebody about a lot of time. You said it's longer and slower, but the dog tends to have the commands down better. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's
because they
more
understood it
tolerant on this.
right.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
understood it positively because they were trained positively,
Right, right,
and they
right.
retain it for life. I can take my dog Lucy, which I'm going to have a litter with her soon,
Oh, yeah, you
and
are.
I've
Yeah.
taught her 2 years ago certain behaviors. I could take her out now to the park.
Mhm.
Now she's not going to be as sharp at it, but she will still remember her exercise, her BH routine, because she was trained slowly.
Mhm.
That's why she'll
Right.
remember.
That upcoming litter, when is that, in April?
Yeah, she's supposed to go into heat in April. If you don't mind, I'd like to share a little
Let's
bit
look at that
about her,
breed.
if you don't mind. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
So let me share that. I'm sorry for the dogs. My wife is feeding them in the other room and they're making a ruckus,
Okay,
but they're
that's
okay. I don't know if you can hear it or not.
I can hear, but
But
I think they probably got dogs barking in their background.
okay. So let me explain. So this dog here, Caro van Brandervoort, it says SG, sehr gut, or very good in German. KNPV PH1, Polithun 1, KNPV PH2, Polithun 2, and KNPV Object B Walking, Object Guarding, and KKL1, Core Class 1. That's a structural, in other words, his anatomical structure is top notch. So there's KKL2, which is acceptable for breeding, and there's KKL1, highly recommended for breeding.
Hmm.
Now, this dog is the father of my dog Bailey. I'm going to show her picture. So this is his daughter Bailey. Can everybody see this page?
Yes.
So Bailey is the daughter of Caro, and Caro is the son of Yukon van Perot, the Bundesbroken champion in Germany, the three-time German national champion, 2008, 2012, and 2000. Hey, Bailey. What's up, Bailey? Oh, Katya, how are they here, Katya? One second. Let me put them in the other room. Take
Yeah,
them to
yeah,
the other room, Katya. One second.
yeah. Do your thing.
And they're barking their heads off.
I'm telling y'all, this is real deal dog stuff. Real deal dog people. Man, I just got some really good news. We're doing a show tomorrow at 5:30, guys.
Sorry, guys. My wife was taking them, and they walked into this room, and they're a little noisy. Anyhow,
Oh, yeah.
so she was called Bika in Holland, and I renamed her to Bailey when she arrived in the U.S. So Bailey goes through Caro and goes back to Yukon. Now, my dog Jake, when he was alive, also goes back to Yukon through his father, Born.
Hmm.
So Born is the half brother of Carl. In other words, Jake is the father of Lucy, and via Born he goes back to Yukon, and Bailey is the granddaughter of Yukon
Hmm.
through her father, Carl. So when I married Bailey and Jake together,
Hmm.
it's a 3-3 line breeding and Yukon. You see, Yukon is in the grandfather of the female
Oh yeah.
and the grandfather of the male. So if you look at the female Lucy, if you look at her pedigree, she's, let me go back to the pedigree. If you can notice, Yukon is in here and Yukon is here again on the top and bottom of the pedigree. So she represents a 3-3 line breeding and Yukon Van Perot. And her grandfather is Caro, her great grandfather is Yukon. Now, I have frozen semen from a dog named Uno van Voltenhoven, which is in Holland.
Hmm.
This is a picture of him when he was 10 months old, and he's the great grandson of Caro. So when I partner Lucy with Uno, this is Uno, we're going to create a line breeding on, notice Uno's, so Rochi van Voltenhoven is his father,
Hmm.
Nora van Voltenhoven is his grandmother, and Nora's father was Caro. Caro was right here. You see that?
Yes.
So Caro is the great grandfather of Uno, but the grandfather of Lucy. This is called a 4-3 line breeding. In other words, 18% of all the genes will be um, Caro, and great grandfather Yukon will be also a large percentage of the genes.
Hmm.
It'll have a 4.83% coefficient of inbreeding, which is below 5%, so it's pretty safe. But
Gotcha.
we're making the same dog on both sides. Now notice we have the Carthago line, Pepper van Carthago, in as the father of Rochi. For those who don't know, the Carthago is a very well-known sporty line in Germany.
Hmm.
Notice all the dogs have no hip, no DMNN, free of hip display, free of degenerative myelopathy. Every dog has hips X-rayed. Every dog has no elbow dysplasia, no degenerative myelopathy. In other words, they're genetically tested up and down the wazoo.
Excellent.
So these dogs come guaranteed in terms of hips and elbows, guaranteed in terms of um, hip dysplasia. And if you want to know something about it, just go to my website, click on puppies,
The
click on
link is in the chat.
how
The
to
link is
buy
in
our
the chat
puppies.
right there. Sorry, Alex.
And yeah. And basically, people can put a deposit now. And let me stop sharing because I don't know if I'm doing this right. Okay. Did I
Uh,
stop sharing or not?
yeah,
I'm
you
not
stop
sure.
sharing. Yeah, you good. Can you
Okay.
see
I'm
me?
not. I do because I'm
Okay.
not that good with the software yet.
Okay.
So basically, I don't know if the viewers of this channel are into German Shepherds or other breeds, but if you
I'm
want a
sure they.
German Shepherd,
I'm sure they're in here. They come. They usually German Shepherd people show up when you're on.
right? So if somebody wants it, I'm accepting a few deposits. I can't accept too many, otherwise I'll have more deposits than puppies.
Hmm.
So I will pre-sell 50% of the litter, hopefully. And if people, nobody wants to wait for a puppy, then not get a puppy. So let me share my screen again because people waiting, they want to get a puppy for sure, right? So
Hmm.
it's just not not nice to wait and you got nothing. So
Hmm.
um, I would prefer people don't walk away disappointed because it's just the nature of people. So now, if you can see Jago of the Southland, I don't know if you guys can see that.
Present it for me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I did and I didn't. Yeah, okay, sorry.
Got
Okay,
it.
can you guys see Jago? Jago is a Schutzen 3 male. Well, now it's IGP 3. I keep saying Schutzen. He was the stud dog of my last litter with my dog Bailey because
Mhm.
Jake died, so I used Jago twice. So Jago fathered my last litter. This was the father to my dog Bella. And under female dogs, there's a very
Alexander,
nice dog.
that's a insanely nice website, brother. I gotta give it to you.
Oh, thank you,
Man.
thank you. Yeah. So we got a dog named Luna. She's half Czech, half West German. Here's her pedigree. So notice we have CMKU dogs in the Czech Republic. That's CMKU. That means a Czech dog. If you see NHTSB, NHSB, those are
Mm-hmm.
dogs from Holland. So from the
Yeah.
registration number, you could tell what the country it is. If you see SZ, that's a dog born in Germany, just for everybody to know how to read a pedigree.
Okay.
And if you see DN, you see DN65, blah, 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 blah. That's an
Mm-hmm.
American born dog. So
You know.
notice the bottom of her pedigrees only check CMKU, CMKU, CMKU. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
And the top of her pedigree is these two dogs are from Holland, but they come from dogs from Germany. So
Gotcha.
this is a purely imported bloodline. In other words, one generation removed from European blood. Same thing with Jago, two generations removed from European blood. Lucy, her mom was born in Holland, so she's one generation removed from European blood. Uno is a European dog. He actually lives in Holland. We're using some frozen semen. So basically, uh, Jago and Luna represent the backup breeding, meaning in case there's not enough pups from the first breeding
Mm-hmm.
of Lucy and Uno, we're gonna have a backup breeding. The other two dogs are not owned by me; they're owned by Mr. Israel Cruz in South Jersey.
Okay.
But people be able to buy them through me because he's an elderly gentleman, doesn't know internet, doesn't know web-based stuff. So I help him out. So I just don't
Gotcha.
want to misrepresent whose dogs are whose. I'm very transparent. You know,
Right.
genetic testing's on all the dogs. I'll provide everybody copies of all the genetic testing.
Right.
Everything's been embarked and tested, and everything is
Top
perfect.
notch.
Yes,
Top notch stuff, brother. Yeah, I like
I
that.
don't play games. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you can buy a top-notch dog for nothing,
Yeah.
nothing more than people buy a very crappy dog. So,
Yeah.
so
For real.
anyhow,
Yeah.
so bottom line is that people are interested. You know, you can go to that link and contact me, and if you reserve, you know, you'll get a puppy. And if you don't get a puppy from the Lucy Uno breeding, you will get a puppy from the Jago and Luna breeding, provided the timing works out. So I can't guarantee when which dog gets pregnant. It's not something I can control. I
Right.
can't guarantee how many males and females. I can't guarantee color and gender. Let's say you wanted a black male, but you get a black female. In other words, I can't tell you, I can't guarantee every combination out there.
Right.
I know
Right.
that I know that we're gonna have a lot of black puppies because both Uno and Django are pure black. Lucy is black and tan, but carries black because both Born and Caro are black. German Shepherd's black is recessive, so it's from both sides. In the
Right.
Luna and Django mating, we have also going to be mostly black. 70 to 80% of the litter will be black.
Mm-hmm.
One or two pups will be black and tan. It depends how many are born. Last litter with the same couple, Luna and Jago, we only had 5 puppies, which was not a lot for a German Shepherd litter. We
Mm-hmm.
had one black and tan, the rest were all black. Had it been 10, it would have been 2 or 3 black and tan. But she was a first time mom and she had a small litter.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So sometimes the first litter is smaller, sometimes the first litter is bigger and subsequent litters are smaller.
Yeah.
But she's 3.5. I don't breed them too young. I
Mm-hmm.
don't breed dogs which are babies themselves. I want to make
Yeah.
sure they're mentally mature.
Yeah.
They have to have their OFX raised. They have to be titled.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Luna only has a BH. She doesn't have a Shih Tzu one yet.
Mm-hmm.
Lucy only has a BH. She does not have a Shih Tzu one yet.
Mm-hmm.
But she comes from a long line of dogs which are titled. And but the male is highly titled.
Right.
So that's, you know, if you want to know titles, I'm telling you the whole picture here.
Right.
But if you want to do a sport dog, it'll be a good sport dog. It will not be a personal protection dog. I
Mm-hmm.
don't breed high defense drive dogs. I breed high prey drive dogs.
Okay.
This high defense drive can be a little skittish and a little could be a fear biter, and I don't want that.
Yeah.
So I want a super civil, super aggressive dog. So if you're looking
Right.
for a very aggressive dog, these are not your type.
You've had a personal protection dog before, right?
I did. I did.
Yeah. And
I was involved in a lawsuit because of that.
yeah, I remember you talking about that. That's why you don't prefer them anymore.
No, I don't want a dog which is very suspicious and very dominant and which is
Mhm.
going to challenge your authority. He was also a very dominant dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to be a very strong handler to handle dogs like that. Now, majority of people are not strong handlers.
Hmm.
So if you have no previous German Shepherd experience or large breed experience, these dogs are not for you. These are high drive working dogs. They're not civil dogs, but they are. They can go into a pet home just fine, but you have to know how to handle a German Shepherd. They're not
Right,
golden retrievers.
right, right.
So
Yeah, gotcha, gotcha. The
yeah,
overall dog. That's what's up.
yep,
Ohio mom, she says, thank you for mentioning Embark as your go-to for DNA testing.
right.
Anybody got any questions before we get out of here? Um, Alexander, it's been a pleasure once again.
Thank you.
Um, man, it was just every time he
It
surprised
flows
y'all.
by, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to summarize the whole thing. So basically, we
Okay.
talked about books on training, both obedience and protection. We talked about the two methods of association and learning. We talked about um, um, the Pavlov response, classical conditioning, and we talked about operant conditioning.
Hmm.
We talked about F.B. Skinner as the father of operant conditioning. A lot
Hmm.
of people call it clicker training. So the Karen Pryor Academy, I don't know if you heard that name.
No.
She's now old, but she sells franchises teaching with her style of training, which is clicker training.
Okay.
She doesn't advocate any corrections, but a lot of people who want a resource for how to train a dog, they're pretty reputable. The Karen Pryor Academy, and she's a student of F.B. Skinner. She's 78 now, or almost
Okay.
80, or almost 81. So when she was a young girl, she learned from F.B. Skinner. So the
Let me ask
Karen
you this.
Pryor Academy was a well-known school.
Right, right. The clicker. Do you
Yeah,
use a clicker personally? And what does the clicker
I do
give?
use the clicker.
Okay.
You
And
can use the
then
word clicker or you can use the yes command. See, the clicker is very effective because the clicker marks the exact moment the behavior was right.
you right there on it. Pop.
Right? Yeah, because you can't give it also buys you time to reach into your pocket to get a reward. See, there has to be less than 3 seconds from the time you gave the behavior to the time you rewarded it. But once you clicked it, you marked it. Now you can take a little more time to reach into your pocket and give a reward. It
Right.
buys you time. That's number one. Number two, it buys you. Um, I'll give you an example. I find that Malinois are very literal learners as opposed to German Shepherds. For example, let's say you're standing in the upright position. The dog has to learn what's called the basic position, which is next to your left leg, looking up at you like this, full attention to your face. Now, instead of its butt, imagine this is the butt of the dog and these are the front paws, okay?
Hmm.
Imagine it's in a sit, but its rear is crooked with respect to your body. So it's sitting, but it's crooked with its tail, with its rear end out, right? Now, if you correct it, why are you correcting it? It does the sit. It did what you told it to. So you're trying to correct it for having a crooked sit, but you are correcting it for sitting in the first place. The
Right.
dog, like, why are you correcting me? I sat. Dog doesn't understand the nuance that it's sat, but it's sat crooked. So how do
Right.
you fix that? So now when the dog straightens its butt out, then you click. Nah,
Gotcha.
you did it right. So
Gotcha.
in other words, it allows you to fine tune your behavior. For example, if it's sat, but it's sat crooked, well, you reward that? Well, you should reward it. It's sat, right? But it's sat crooked. And if you're teaching it that's okay, it'll learn that and that's the way it'll always sit.
Hmm.
So by using a clicker, you're saying at this moment you did it right. The moment I clicked, not you kind of got it right, but I didn't click. Why? Well, okay, I got it. I got it. You want me to sit straight. So
Yeah.
that's allows you to fine tune behavior because you're able to mark the instant it's perfect as opposed to a close approximation.
Right. Right. Okay. Appreciate it. Brifford Great Danes, appreciate it.
Oh,
Alex is a mentor of mine. Good men here. Thanks, fellas. Yes, sir. Thank you
yeah,
for
he's a Great Dane breeder in New
right,
Jersey.
right. Asiatic Soldier. Had he heard of Lewis Donald book, the definitive German Shepherd?
Yes, I have. There was a book prior to his. I'm going to bring it up quickly,
Okay.
um, really quickly.
Okay. Yep.
I have a copy of not that book, but a book which preceded it, and I can't find it right this moment, but I'll search for it and I'll show it to you.
Okay. Great show full of gems. RG Lone Wolf. Thank you. Brian Luster got it. Said he got in late, but he got here. Ohio Malinois moms want to know what you feed your dogs, Alex.
I cook for my dogs.
Oh,
I tried raw. I have nothing against raw, but if you might cross contaminate salmonella with your human family,
mhm.
so not to take that chance, I cook.
Right.
I cook sweet potatoes and spinach and carrots, and I mixed it with cooked chicken and cooked beef, and I give vitamins. God,
Uh,
shit,
what I told you all.
I can't find that book, but there's a book
Okay.
written prior to that gentleman's book. It talks about breeding dogs, um, how the German Shepherd was developed, how the German Shepherd evolved over time. Um, Malcolm B. Willis. One second. I'm going to show
Okay.
that. One second. Malcolm B. Willis. Yes, this is the man. I'm going to share my screen really quickly, guys.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we
So
know when you
Lewis
gotta get out
Donald,
of
I have nothing against Lewis Donald. I mean, he did
here.
a great
Present.
service to the dog world. Let me present it. Hold on, so people can see. And this book is lying in its side in the video, but you still can get the picture.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the author Malcolm B. Willis. This book is about $45. It's pretty affordable. The other book is a little bit more like 5 times the price, which is kind of pricey for a book, in my opinion, but doesn't take anything away from the book. But I'm just, talking here. But this book is very good. So if you want to read a same concept, but get almost the same information, but a little bit less expensive. This book is written in 1992, and that's a revised edition. Write down this author, Malcolm B. Willis. So this book is very similar, but it's earlier to Lewis Donald's book because it came out 20 to 25 years sooner.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
some of the information in the other person's book came from this book. And I
Right.
think he's a friend of his. I think he knows Malcolm B. Willis.
Okay.
Malcolm B. Willis is old now, but Lewis Donald's book is fantastic. But if you're on a budget, Malcolm B. Willis's book is a little bit cheaper.
One last question. One last
Yeah.
question. Why embark over wisdom panel?
So that's a good question. So Embark gives you a couple of advantages. When you're doing Embark, you want to know about diseases, which you're trying to avoid breeding a carrier to a carrier. So it gives you help in breeding decisions, not to partner two carriers. It also gives you the COI, the coefficient of inbreeding. And if you don't have a pure breed, you want to know what you have. If it's not pure breed, it'll tell you that as well. So in one test, you're accomplishing three things. You're accomplishing diseases, coefficient of inbreeding, and purity of blood, all in one shot. Whereas the other test is all about diseases, but not about the other two things.
That's right. That's right.
So it's better for decision making in making breeding decisions.
That's right.
That's my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong.
Right. Alex, I'm gonna let you go because I know you gotta go as I do. Man, we appreciate you once again.
Thank you. I hope people found this useful. I mean, people don't read books nowadays. People just go online. And you
Right.
have the Google machine and it tells you anything you want to hear. But I do think people can still benefit from reading these books.
Yeah.
There's a
Yes.
lot to be gained still going back to books. There really is.
Right. Because you made a good point about people. It's the main books, some main old classic information. People
Right.
taking the information, condensing it down, and just throwing a new book. When you got these main books, you can get
These are
everything.
these are the stewards of the the entire idea. In other words, it's like, who would you rather talk to? The general who wrote the plan, or some guy in the corner, a janitor who overheard the conversation?
Right.
You
Right.
know what I mean? Kind of like
That's
that.
right. Right. Okay. All right, man. Like I said, everybody, thank y'all for tuning in. Go to Alexander's channel and go. He got a ton of good information over there. Go visit his channel, and if you stop by, just go in the comments and say, man, thank you. Seeing you on NWA, thank you. We got to start thanking these
I
guys.
appreciate.
He
I
don't charge me
appreciate.
no money. Maybe we should start getting a donation or something for him. But but anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow at 5:30. That's gonna be a crazy show tomorrow with some top notch. I'm talking about top of the clock Rottweiler show dog men and they're breeders and they've been in the wild. They're very knowledgeable. That's Terry Cornish, that's Quinn Brumfield, and that's our brother Anthony Forte tomorrow, 5:30 CST. All right, Miss
Awesome.
Patricia.
I'll watch it
Yep.
too.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, sir.
guys. Pleasure.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Have a nice evening and a good weekend. Thank you, everybody.